the F word. That is true. God word. To protest is the F word. You know what's funny is that during this I've been watching, what's his name? Oh God. My fellow Leaf, who was part of the like ancient alternative right. Kevin Michael Grace. He has an excellent coverage of it. And I think what people don't realize, now I'm going to get to the actual topic of this stream, which is the Book of Revelation, which is the Canticide of Canticles, Songs of Solomon, Song of Songs. We're going to read it. It's about love. It's about beauty. It's about union with the Lord. But before that, I just wanted to get a general overview. The media has been going completely apoplectic, and they've been going insane. The rhetoric. I love how this one particular bug man, this terrible cretin, because all political cartoonists are terrible. What's his name? Adler, who writes for the Washington Compost. By writing, I mean he does these terrible politic-kitsch cartoons. He has this cartoon where the trucks are going by, and it says, I should lower my mic. Someone said my mic was too boosted last time. Saying that the trucks are carrying fascism. And, of course, I had to post the Giga Chad, and, So, I think one thing that KMG brought up, I don't know how he hasn't been banned from YouTube for actually, like, saying the thing, saying the name for the succulent Chinese meal. He's fearless. He is a fearless boomer. But he mentioned that this argument, and now that I mention it, so two announcements, two news updates. I've disavowed my fellow tribesmen. Well, Philip Daniel, you're one of the good ones as always. By the way, Philip, I have the prints done. I just have to scan them. They are mono prints, but of course for most of them, I did like 2 or 3 mono prints for each of the songs in the suite. I don't know. So there we go. But 2 news items next week on Break the Rules. It's Total Workhorse. I always get those confused. Workhorse hours on BTR. 3 streams next week. And I also might be recording something with my good friend Astral Flight Simulator for his podcast. I recorded the first episode last week. But 3 streams. The first one is going to be the epic debate, Gnosticism versus Christianity. Going to be me and fame star Tyler Hamilton teaming up against Gnostic Informant and that, I forget his name, the Gnostic radio guy. Then we're going to have Lord Miles with Alexander Bard on Tuesday. So traditionally we always have just Tuesday and Thursday, but Monday will be the debate, the mass debate. Tuesday will be the BTR, Alexander Bard and Lord Miles. And apparently I've been summoned to duty by I Can Click on Twitter, saying that I have to ask Lord Miles, our good friend of the show, I have to ask him boldface if he's a glow-in-the-dark MI6 agent. I don't know. I don't think so, but who knows, right? And then finally, get this, on Thursday, we have a Gamergate. Can I even mention that on YouTube? We have a Gamergate stream, the Gamergate Emporium, the Gamergate Review, or rather, I think we should call it Reflections upon Gamergate or something like that. Gamergate on Reflection or something. We have Default Friend, my good friend Billy Pratt. Well, they're both my good friends. We might also have to get another person who was involved in the incident, the ground zero of the internet. Maybe we'll get Daddy Jim. Daddy Jim will never come on BTR. I don't know. But we also have this journalist who writes for the New York Times who wrote about Gamergate back in the day. So that is an exciting lineup next week. And on BTR, it's going to be 3 streams. Traditionally, it's 2. But we're going to be running ragged. Alexander Dugan is responsible for the Canadian Freedom Trucks, and it's beautiful. Well, I hope so. I hope that, according to the media, according to Matt Gurney, and according to a number of hacks at the Toronto Star, I don't know why the CBC still employs Matt Gurney. The National Post. Yes, the truckers are Russian. They're being funded by Russia. And, in fact, for my support for the truck convoy, I have been given Russian money by the Russian emissary, Lev Polyakov. Sorry. I wasn't supposed to reveal that. Yes, Lev Polyakov is my Russian emissary for spreading xenophobic, hateful propaganda, disinformation propaganda for the truck convoy. So, yes, I've been given Russian money for spreading propaganda. Heil Putler! Heil Putler! I shouldn't have done that! I shouldn't have done that. I'm a bad boy. Anyways, no, I'm kidding. I mean, people have been going insane over because the thing is, you have to realize this one aspect about Canada, then I have to move on to the Songs of Solomon. You have to realize that Canada has this weird, beaten middle child syndrome between empires, meaning that we hate America, we don't care about Britain anymore, but we have to counter-signal against America, yet all of the things that inform what life is like in Canada is ostensibly American, right? So we have to counter-signal and say we're better than America, but the way we can do it, even though we have most, especially lib Canadians, have this burning hatred of America, they have to counter-signal by being better Americans than America. Because Canadian libs are basically if you were to take blue dog Democrats, the bluest, AOC. By the way, AOC had this tweet the other day that Amy Therese, my good friend, shared, saying that, basically TJ Kirk wrote this tweet from 2005, saying I wish the evil right-wing Republicans were more honest about turning the West into a theocracy. I wish. Jigga Chad, yes. Anyways, Canadians have to counter-signal America, but at the same time, we have to be better Americans than America. So if America doesn't want to if America is loosening their grip on the sacrament, then we have to be the most we have to be better than that nation in the Middle East. But again, another thing that Kevin Michael Grace was saying is that when you look at the data, the actual studies that come from Britain and from the Israelites, they have near 90% sacrament rates, but yet their numbers are relatively the same. And you have to keep in mind that Israel is a younger nation than America. They have one of the few you would consider Western nations that actually has a replacement rate because of their religion and because of their, siege mentality and so forth, that they have more children than the average American, especially the average Canadian, although lower class people in Canada still tend to have replacement rate children. So when you compare the data, I know I hate that word data. It's become so polluted. But so it makes no sense that we have these various restrictions against people who don't have the sacrament. And it's just insanity. It's total insanity. And it's just, they're doubling down. You have Duclos, who is our health minister, saying that, it's misinformation, and the only way we're going to get out of this if you sacrament people even harder. But so anyways, I am seeing a sea change, though. I think because of the nature of an innovative form of protest, I think because of the nature of the average working class person. They're trying to psyop people into saying that, well, not most truckers don't support this, and the truckers union denounced them, and all this crap. But because you have, like I would say, e-celebrities who aren't necessarily right-wing, but have vast swaths of audiences that rival that of the traditional, like, dinosaur news media. You have, like, Joe Rogan. I kind of would put Jordan Peterson in that camp, but Jordan Peterson, he's coded by the media as right-wing, even though he is not. Obviously, if anything, he is a gatekeeper. My opinions have softened on Jordan Peterson as of late. So you have him. You have now Russell Brand. I remember I used to despise Russell Brand. I used to thought he was just a goofball, right? But no, Russell Brand, he's actually had some like decent takes. I wonder if Lev could get him on BTR. That would be amazing. Populism is the only thing that they really fear. Yes, but populism has to be driven by an aristocratic elite. And the problem with the convoy is that, I hate to say it, but the convoy might not change things materially. I think what will change things is if the rest of the Western world, especially like in European countries, which they are now, they're like, well, I guess it's, it's the succulent Chinese meal is here to stay, so it doesn't make any sense to demonize whole swaths of people. Even in Britain, you have this reversal. But the convoy, in terms of immediate action, will not probably change a whole lot, because like I said on Twitter, Trudeau has always been a petulant child with everything. Trudeau has been the most stubborn little... I'm not going to Fed post, but he has the affect, the attitude, the cadence of a angsty teen. He basically is like the perfect, like, I guess, empty-headed, like, older version of a Chapo cell, because he's not smart enough to be like a Chapo cell, but he basically has this, like, petulant teenage child, man-child attitude, and he really is not going to budge a whole lot. Anyways, let's get on to it! Alright! You know what? I think I'm going to monitor comments on my cell phone. But Lev has to teach me how to do the comments were there the first screen on my OBS. It's just I have to, do it again. So let me mute my phone. So anyways, Godward, something like 1/3 of succulent Chinese meal linked deaths in the U.S. were linked to nurse. Yes, well, that's why Bronze Age Pervert, he called it in the beginning an isogenic, global, let's call it pestilence, meaning that it was originating from, not originating, but rather it was provoked by various, healthcare people in general. And if you look throughout history, a lot of plagues, a lot of pestilences have been caused by various, infirmaries and medical facilities and so forth. That is why you have this change in the 18th century that Michel Foucault talked about, where you started to have in the medieval period, but really it reached its scientific quintessence in the 18th century. You have the change of the guard in terms of how you distribute and regiment patients of various classes. You start to have separations. You start to have the barracks model becoming the norm in infirmaries that were run by the church. And you start to have the first inklings of biopower, where you have nurses that were able to observe different patients on different wards. So you have all of that. So Michel Foucault, he goes into this a lot more. But because a reason for that was a lot of pestilences, a lot of various succulent Chinese dishes. And I do say Chinese because people have theorized that it wasn't exactly the Urals that caused the bubonic plague, but rather it probably came from China. So the Han peasantry has been responsible. And of course what happened was it went through the Caucasus, it went to the Rus, it went everywhere, and then it finally got to the Crusaders who carried it back from their, various pilgrimages and so forth. And so you have China has really become, well, not become, was always the, pestilence vector of the world for a variety of reasons. And, a lot of people have studied this, but of course it's racism to study this. It's racism to point out that the noble steppe peoples of the world that were around China, the Manchu, the Mongols, they had a better general immune system than the Han peasantry, and they weren't as viciously massacred by various pestilences on the battlefield. Maybe it was due to their high protein, high what do they call it? High diet, high, and what's that thing that gets rid of free radicals? Antioxidant diet. The subtropical Yunnan province near Burma, yes. And that eventually spread to Europe and the Rus and so forth. So anyways, this is I just wanted to quickly get that off my chest. Pestilence vector, exactly. Oh boy. Anyways, guess I mentioned populism because it amazes me how the global governance elite still manage to project a narrative that they care about the poor and conservatives don't. That is the most hilarious thing. You know what's funny is that there was this absolutely deranged thread on Twitter that the guy deleted. He was what's his name? Ed Solomon. I actually have the cap of it. But I'm going to, yes, I believe Omega 3 because the Han peasantry, if you want a good video on this, sorry, my keyboard. Here we go, Russell Walter. He accidentally deleted our stream, but he's going to put it back. You want a really good video on this? Go to Russell Walter's channel, my good friend Russell Walter. I'm actually in talks with him to do a stream with him and John David Ebert. Where is it? This one's good, the Hoppa one. But if you go to, where is it? This one, Nietzschean aristocratic radicals. In it, he talks about, okay, there was this video, but there was this one on health. I wonder if he still has it up. But he has one. Yes, here we go. Bronze Age mindset versus the matriarchy. That's another good one. But in it, he talks about how the Han were able to be conquered by the noble steppe peoples because of their diet. Because they were eating a lot of different meats and berries and so forth. And the Han peasantry was eating basically grain slop that was very lacking in nutrition, and therefore they succumbed to a lot of different ailments. Anyways, I'm moving on. I just wanted to talk about recent news. Let me just quickly check the newsreader. But basically all of the articles you see from the Canadian media, it's actually quite fascinating to watch the Canadian media, because the American media, the British, throughout the world, even Germany, I've seen, they just are commenting on the spectacle of it, but the Canadian media has to viciously demonize them as redneck, fascists and disinfo people, and it's just insanity. So yeah, and of course now the Oh My Cum. Here's the CBC. If Oh My Cum is mild, why are so many people in Ontario dying? Maybe that they're old people, or they have other conditions, or maybe you're cooking the statistics because it's no different from the beginning of 2020 and now. I don't know about that. I don't know, CBC. Is it from Adam Miller? No, it's not, because Adam Miller is like the worst ghoul from the CBC. Blah, 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 blah. The answers are found in sheer numbers of people getting the oh my coom. So remember what Fingal Ding, the page shill, said, that, well, even if the succulent Chinese meal of oh my cum is less spicy, the spiciness is gonna still affect more people. That's their answer to anything. Anyways, I wanted to get off on this. I wanted to I wanted to do a Bible reading, but keep in mind, please go to my Substack, go to my Telegram, please donate, all that good stuff. Go to Break the Rules. We're going to transition now to reading Song of Songs. I'm not going to be as lively as the other Bible readings because I want to do a lecture style. By the way, shout out to my mentor and professor, and he was my thesis supervisor in university, Rohit Dalvi. He taught me this method. He was one of the last few people doing traditional lectures where you read the text and you lecture. So I'm not going to be as exciting because I wanted to sort of clear our minds of the contemporary political landscape. I wanted to talk about the nature of love and eroticism in the Bible. And the reason I want to talk about this is because on BTR, on our debate where me and Lambda were up against Gnostic Informant and what's his name? Valiant, James Valiant, about the historicity of Christ, and it got a bit spicy in certain areas, and I didn't do too well because I'm not that familiar with those specific parts of the Bible as opposed to Revelation, Ezekiel, Daniel, and of course Songs of Solomon. But he talked about how he's like, well, Christ wants you to be a eunuch, right? Said if it's better not to have sex, and if you have to have sex, it's only for reproduction. Which traditionally, yes, the sexual act should be in the mind of the potentiality of reproduction, but there are many passages that are held by both the Catholic and Orthodox churches to have an implicit erotic nature to them, and it's not heretical to go into it. And Song of Songs is unique in that it is not commenting directly upon the nature of Revelation like other parts of the Canticides, but rather it is talking about corporeal relations. But as we're going to go through, we will see that those corporeal relations are a foil for relations to us and the Lord, because in it, the main character, the woman, the young maiden, talks about Christ as being Christ's bridegroom. And we will see that. And of course, I will caution that a lot of weird and heretical and just outright stupid and, conspiratoid Dan Brown people have said that, well, Song of Solomon's, that must mean that, actually, Christ maybe did have a bride and all this. He has got a bloodline. And it's like that one movie by Martin Scorsese, what's it called? The Last Temptation of Christ. Total nonsense. It's metaphor. It's poetry. This is the most poetic. All this stuff about dating advice and dating columns and romance columns and all this crap. Just read this, Song of Solomon. You don't need any of that other crap. You don't need any of the sort of Pua manosphere stuff. No, you don't need any marriage advice. Just read Song of Solomon. It is the one of the largest feats of erotic poetry in the world, and we're going to also get into a bit of Carl Jung's interpretation of Song of Solomon. Yes, my Telegram, it's in my description here. I'm actually going to just post a link in the... we're doing it live! Fucking thing sucks! Yeah, it's a telegram.me, Giant Art Productions. I do have spicier rants on Telegram. But, actually, I forgot to share on Twitter. Live now, get in here. I'm going to share it. So give me a moment. But yes, Song of Songs, it truly is a feat. And really, you don't need any sort of any like this modern crap, Christian Karma Sutra, let's go. Well, it is kind of very Karma Sutra-like. But it's kind of like when people say the only thing you need to read about the manosphere is Schopenhauer's on women, and it's like basically everything. It's very true. Get live right now. Get in here. I'm just doing this on Twitter. There we go. Oh, I see that Nemitz has a Twitter space, Roots of Russia, Ukraine. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Nemitz, to tell you the truth. Oh boy, they won't parse deep comorbidities in the Chinese delegate. Yes, exactly. Of course they won't. So let's go to Canticide, Song of Solomon. The spouse aspires to a union with Christ, their mutual love for one another. Let him kiss me. This is book 1:1. Let him kiss me with the kiss of his mouth, for thy breasts are better than wine. Thy breast is better than wine. Mommy milkers, smelling sweet of the best ointments, thy name is oil poured out, therefore young maidens have love of thee. Draw me, that will become important. We will run after thee to an odor of thy ointments. The king hath brought me into his storerooms. We will be glad and rejoice in thee, remembering thy beasts more than wine. Remembering thy beasts more than wine, the righteous love thee. So, basically, there is a very common theme within romantic poetry, in particular of the medieval period. Of course, romantic poetry in the medieval period is heavily inspired by Song of Songs. The fragrance of love, the hormonal fragrance of thy beloved is bestowed, but he says, let them kiss me. The church, the spouse of Christ, prays that he may be loved and have peace with her, which the spouse prefers to everything delicious, and therefore expresses that young maidens, that this is the soul of faith, have love of thee. Meaning that the eroticism present within the love to the beloved is similar to the relationship that we have for a higher form of love, or agape, our love of thy Lord. Therefore, the fragrance is of importance, because I know people that go like, well, evolutionarily it's because of, the hormones and the fragrance of which I think they're still trying to prove that even humans emit pheromones. But I think really it's a spiritual and poetic metaphor, because ointments were always deeply related. The scent was always deeply archetypally related to the act of love, because of course love gives off a number of scents. But also, when he says, draw me, this is with thy grace, otherwise I should not be able, and by the way, I'm using the Dewey Rames, it's the only one I use. I know people have problems with it, but with thy grace, otherwise I should not be able to come to thee. The metaphor shews that we cannot of ourselves come to Christ our Lord unless he draws us by his grace, which is led up to the storerooms. That is the mysteries of faith, the storerooms of faith itself, the plenty of the grace that is given to us by the Lord, which God in his goodness and love for mankind hath revealed, first by his servant Moses. In the old law it figures only, and afterwards in reality by his begotten Son Jesus Christ. So here we have in the Canticide that the relation of the Old Testament being viewed as a prison through the New Testament, where the laws of Moses was a preamble. Finally, the covenant has been fulfilled within Christ. But notice this poetic metaphor that I would say even Heidegger talks about in the Origins of the Work of Art, but also when he's talking about Holderlin's poems, where poetry is a means of clearing forth of the world. It is a means of clearing forth into a form of the world that only poetry can reveal in these connections. So, for instance, when you have the loved and the beloved of especially the feminine other invites or gives a sort of nod towards an opening of the grace of that union. Similar to our relation to Christ, only that grace of Christ can come about We are ready for it, but only the Lord can give us that opening. The way that a beautiful woman can give us that opening, that nod, that subtle repulsion, but at the same time, that repulsion that's melting away to a form of invitation. It's all wrapped up within the poetics of both romance, love, eros, and the poetics of our relation to the Lord, in that poetry itself, or the work of art, as Heidegger would say, opens a clearing space for these connections. There are metaphors in poetry that maybe we don't know in real life, but they give open a space towards those things, those ideational contents. Base Dewey Rames onlyism. Yes, thank you. I am black but beautiful. So we'll get to that. Of thine ointments, the king hath brought me into his storerooms. The King of Kings, Christ, brings you into the storerooms of grace. We will be glad and rejoice in thee, remembering thy breasts more than wine. Remembering thy breasts more than wine. The breast, the milk. I said this before on Twitter once, and a lot of people thought I was weird. But I said that the reason that there was a study about, poor people, they, oh, by the way, I forgot to wear my rosary. What am I doing? The reason the breast is such an ancient symbol is because it literally is the giver of life. It is such an archetypally powerful symbol. And that is the reason why people who are more prone to a fertile replacement rate outcome, whether it be lower class people or whatnot, that's why traditionally they have been more, let's say, amply gifted, if you know what I mean. But women who are higher class, they tend to have very pert and petite breasts because, of course, it seems that ungodly inordinate wealth has managed to conquer nature, I guess. Temporarily, of course. There was a study going around and I said the reason why is because it's the giver of life. It's because women who are traditionally more accustomed to a proletarian lifestyle have always been more connected to the earth. That is why the breasts become more of a symbol in Song of Solomon. Remember thy breasts more than thy wine. The righteous love thee. I am black but beautiful. I'm sassy. I'm black, baby. No, that's not what it means. I'm black but beautiful. O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the 10th of cedar, as the certains of Solomon, King Solomon. So the King of Solomon, his kingship is a metaphor in this sense for the kingship of Christ. Do not consider me that I am brown, because sun hath altered my color. The tanned metabaddies. Oh, I'm kidding. The sons of my mother have fought against me. They have made me the keeper in the vineyards. My vineyard I have not kept. Meaning that the woman in Songs of Solomon saying she has been placed as the keeper of the vineyard. She is the life bearer. But she has not kept her vineyard until her beloved has come. Later on in Songs of Solomon. That is a powerful metaphor. Only a vineyard can grow when thy beloved is had. Meaning that only the love of Christ can grow our sort of vineyard. It's like when Young in the Red Book, he talks about how the ascetic in the desert has a beautiful oasis garden has grown in the desert in his mind. His mind is like an oasis garden, a walled-off oasis garden, he says in the Red Book. The desert father has a walled-off garden in his head. But now we see that it is the maternal, it is the feminine that is the keeper of the garden. But the vineyard I have not kept. So I am black but beautiful. That is the church of Christ founded in humility, appears outwardly afflicted, and as it were black and contemptible, but inwardly that is its doctrine and morality, fair and beautiful. We will get to the metaphor later on in, I believe, book 5, the lilies of the valley, meaning that the church and the love of Christ and the beautiful woman is kind of like the lily in the valley. It is among the common, the filth, the wretched, the scum, but through it, even though it may look plain, we shall keep it as a beloved object. So I am black but beautiful. I am covered in filth. The church is covered in filth, but inside it is a beauty. It is the glory of salvation. Smash the like button, bros. Exactly. Smash the like button. Shew me, O thy whom my soul loveth, thou that feedeth where thou liest in the midday. In the midday, again, that is similar to, was it Daniel or was it Revelation that said the destruction that cometh at midday, the pestilence that walketh in darkness. This is similar again in Canticize. I believe it actually was in Solomon. Where thou liest in midday, lost I began to wander after the flock of my companions. If thou know not thyself, O fairest among women, go forth and follow after the steps of the flocks, go after the rabble, the commoners, and feed thy kids beside the tents of the shepherds. Again, the kids are fed at the feet of the shepherds, where they are grazing. The shepherd of Christ, the shepherd of God, the Lamb of God is the shepherd unto the world. That is that metaphor. Thy cheeks are beautiful as the turtle dove, thy neck as jewels. We will make thy chains of gold inlaid with silver, gold and silver. So all you gold bugs have a point about, gold being the flesh of the gods. It's an archetypal store of value. If thou know not thyself, Christ encourages his spouse to follow and watch her flock. Therefore she knows not entirely the power at hand to assist her. He tells her, verse 8, my company of horsemen, that is his angels, are always watching and protecting her. And in the following verses, he reminds her of the virtues and gifts with which he has endowed her. So remember, thank you, my friend. Remember, this is such an important point. You want to talk about how women have been corrupted in the West? You want to talk about, the declining birth rates? This is the Bible predicting all of this. The Bible is saying to women, you are the vine keepers in the garden. You are the shepherds of the flock. It is your duty because you have been given the capacity by Christ to give life. Therefore, you are a shepherd, and you are commanded unto the Lord to be a shepherd of the flock. When women are corrupted, men are corrupted, society is corrupted, everything falls to sunder. His angels always protect women who are shepherds of the flock. A good woman who protects her family is protected by the angels of the Lord. So that is a ringing message for our age, just as much as anywhere else, that Christ is a protectorate, but is also a duty giver of women to be the leader of the flock. Where is this woman hatred? It's similar to ISIS and all this crap. It's similar to the Taliban. What is similar to the Taliban here? It is saying that women are in a protectorate role by our Lord to protect the family, protect society, become the shepherd bearers of society, of men. Men build society. Women are the ones who ensure that good men come about within our civilization. Woo! While the kings were at the repose, my spikenard sent forth the odor, therefore. My spikenard, of course, is the frankincense giver. A bundle of myrrh is my beloved to me. He shall abide between my breasts. So, for people who don't know, myrrh is a powerful scent. It's also, I believe archetypally it's related to fertility as well. Wait 1 second. A bundle of myrrh is my beloved to me. He shall abide between my breasts. So myrrh is a powerful symbol of femininity and fertility. Between my breasts, myrrh is the scent. It is the aroma that gives life, that perks up existence. Between her breasts, the bride of Christ, between her breasts are the symbol of fertility and all life. A cluster of cypress, my love to me, in the vineyards of Agadi. Behold, thou art fair, O love, behold, thou art fair, thy eyes are those of doves. Below, thou art fair, my beloved, and comely, our bed is flourishing. Our bed is flourishing. I don't have to tell you what that means. So where is Christ telling you that you have to be a eunuch? Where? I don't know about that one. 16, the beams of our house are of cedar, our rafters of cedar trees. Cedar is, of course, another base element. It's another very powerful symbol. Cedar also is a great... the reason they built cedar houses is because it is a great water repellent. It doesn't tend to rot as fast as other slatted woods. Yeah, so for those who don't know, let's look up myrrh. Myrrh symbol. Sap-like substance that comes out of cuts and bark of certain trees. In food and beverage, myrrh is used as flavoring component. Incense, myrrh symbol. Also been suggested that in addition to the honor and status implied in the value of the gift of the Magi, scholars think that these three were chosen for the special spiritual symbolism of Jesus himself. Gold representing the kinship, frankincense the symbol of his priestly role, and myrrh prefiguring, let's go here, natural living family. I'm sure there's some kind of new agey thing here. The significance of the gifts, the Magi. Here it is. Frankincense, the most bittersweet of gifts. Myrrh has been important to Egypt in droves for embalming rituals and practice filters out through the surrounding areas. Even without the mummification process, myrrh was connected with death and burial, a disheartening gift for a new mother to hold, yet beautiful in light of her understanding of her purpose. But was myrrh for? What am I saying? But was that all that myrrh was for? They should have reworded that. The Middle Eastern regions used myrrh ceremoniously. The Far East was using healing purposes. Adaviac medicine, which dates back thousands of years, used myrrh, blah, blah, blah. The Magi were bringing healing substance for Jesus after birth, cord healing, as well as Mary in her postpartum discomfort. Prophetic words often heard immediate long-term connotations, so these gifts could have followed a similar dual pattern. Noting the frankincense and myrrh together, both used in temple rituals, comprise a synergistic antimicrobial combination, while between the temple of Jesus' makeshift cradle was filled with aromatic substance. So, when it says, the bundle of myrrh was in my beloved to me, he shall abide between my breasts, meaning that the active union between man and woman is a cosmic gate between life and death. It is the eternal mother, the maiden, who becomes the mother symbolically, archetypally, that is the gateway between life and death. Myrrh between her breasts, meaning that she gives life to her child through her breasts. But even, oh, by the way, now that I mention this, I want to give a special shout out to my friend Beth. She is a good friend of mine. She is an artist friend of mine. I have to look up her Twitter, but she has recently given birth, I believe, to her second child. I want to give a huge shout out to her. I want to give a huge shout out to her child, her husband, and I wish all of the blessings and tidings to them. And it's funny, I'm covering this, and she recently has given birth. So shout out to Beth, I love you. A cluster of cypress between my love. So here we have, between the breasts of the beloved, between that which gives life, is also a symbol of eternity and death and passing into the afterlife. From the moment of life that is given, from the moment of life that is received by the child, there is always that acknowledgement of death. Through the union of creating life, there is that acknowledgement of the afterlife. Because in 15 it says, behold thy fair, my beloved and comely, our bed is flourishing. What does that mean? Our bed is flourishing. Cheap and easy road to claim Puritanism if you're a 500-pound virgin. Well, Leon, I am a 500-pound virgin. What are you talking about? Anyways, well, yeah, that's what I mean. I think the problem is that the neo-Puritanism that a lot of trads have is kind of not the whole spectrum of the reality of the Bible. Christ caresses his spouse. He invites her to him. 1:2:1. I am the flower of the field, the lily of the valley. So I was wrong. It was in book 2. As the lily among thorns, so is my beloved among the daughters. As the apple tree among the tree of the woods, so is my beloved among the sons. I sit down under the shadow, whom I desire. His fruit was sweet as my palate. He brought me into the cellar of wine. Again, wine is another, vino. It is life. It is the life giver. He set in order charity to me. He sets in order charity to me. Stay me up the flowers. Compass me about the apples, because I languish with my love. I am the flower of the field. Christ professes himself, the flower of mankind, ye, the Lord of all creatures. And verse 2 declares the excellence of his spouse. The true church is Christ's spouse above all other societies, which are to be considered a thorn. Now, that is a powerful metaphor for the church being the bride of Christ. The church stands above the thorns, the empires, the politics, the nonsense, stands above that which is lower. It is a valley is the lily of the valleys, which I think they said is a hibiscus or so forth. So let's go to he has left hand under my head, his left hand under my head, his right hand shall embrace me. So the left hand is that which is turned away from the beloved, but the right hand path, sorry, my hands are getting mixed up. That is what is bring the beloved towards the one. So I adjourn you, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes, the hearths of the field, that you stir not up, nor make the beloved to awake till she pleases. The voice of my beloved, behold, he comes leaping onto the mountains, skipping over the hills. My beloved is like roe or young hart. Behold, he standeth between our wall, looking through the windows, looking through the lattices. Behold, my beloved speaketh to me. Arise, make haste, my love, my dove, my beautiful one, and come. The voice of the beloved, that is the preaching of the gospel, surmounting difficulties, figuratively here expressed by the mountains and the little hills. The church shall always go through the mountains in order to get to the beloved, that of Christ. But also looking through the windows is another powerful metaphor. Looking through the lattices. So through the window, through the narrow path, we shall get to the outside, which is the grace. The grace of our Lord opens up that window in order to receive the beloved. For winter has now passed, the rain is over and gone, the flowers have appeared in our land, so we have this symbol of growth and new life and fertility, which is in the springtime. So it's similar to what Jim Morrison was saying in the end, where he says, waiting, so the children dancing in the rain, waiting for the summer rain, meaning that in the springtime, where he's from in California, the flowers bloom. It is a restoration of life. In the new spring, the new crops that have come after the rainfall. The flowers have appeared in our land. The time of pruning has come. The voice of the turtle is heard in our land. The fig tree hath put forth her green figs. So the beautiful leaves of the fig tree. The vines and the flowers yield their sweet smell. Arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come. My dove in the clefts of the rock. So the dove of Christ is in the cleft of the rock, ready to descend down to the valley. In the hollow places of the wall shone my face. Let thy voice sound in my ears, for thy voice is sweet and thy face comely. My face is inviting, not the resting you-know-what face. The face is inviting. Catch us the little foxes that destroy the vines, for our vineyard hath flourished. Catch the little bastards, the little foxes. Christ commands his pastors to catch false teachers by holding forth the fallacy and erroneous doctrine, which like the foxes would bite and destroy the vineyards. You must get rid of the foxes in the henhouse. Oh boy. My beloved to me, and I let him who feedeth among the lilies. Christ comes down and dwelleth. He feedeth among the lilies. We are given substance by the beloved till the day break and the shadows retire. Return, be like my beloved to a row to the young hart upon the mountains of Bether. Let's look up the mountains of Bether. Oh boy. Bether is mentioned twice in the Bible, once in Yeshua, and the other in Song of Songs. So I believe this is in Jerusalem. Mountains of Bether. Interesting, both are mentioned as are problematic. The first is not found in Hebrew Masoretic text, but only in Septuagint. Well, the second is found in Old English translations like RSV, and I have the Masoretic text, therefore, mostly from Protestant Bibles which choose strictly follow the text. A scribal error, blah, blah, blah. The word means properly distinction. So let's go here. Divided by ravens, given mountain of hollows. In the sense, this may be the same as those rendered mountains of spice. For the growth of trees from which odors, gums distilled. So it's probably a valley with gum trees and so forth. So it's mentioned only twice in the Bible as mountains of Bether. The place was Bether, the same mentioned in Talmud as lying for the Roman miles for the sea, on the way away from Caesarea to Antipatis, the village of Baron. Yeah, so the mountains of Bether, it's a place from which the spices are, the trees of fragrance are grown. So, there we go. Upon the mountains of Bether. The mountain of spices, I blush to consider that we should be given such a beautiful name, but we must remember that the Song of Solomon was a love song written by Solomon for his bride, and mountains of spices is the name of God chose for his bride, used in the describing herself at the end of the book. So again, make haste, my beloved, be thou to like a roe to a young hart. The bride desires for her husband to be like a young stag and make haste to what location? The mountain of spices. This is the last picture painted for us, the last snapshot in the bride's album, the last poetic rose in the bride's bouquet, the last lily melody in the song. Liken your beloved beard to a soft bed of spices, again able to look at the face of God and with the touch of faith feel the very presence of the fragment of the Holy Spirit upon him. The lush physical and spiritual imagery intertwines beautifully to portray the exquisite delights of both physical and spiritual community. And that is a powerful connection. That is what weds the love of Eros to the love of the divine in Song of Solomon. So this mountain of spices, the fragrance, the aroma, they all have this poetic link between the way in which the fragrance of the beloved is connected to the fragrance of our Lord. It is a scent chain that connects us. And notice how the mountain metaphor, the archetype, it is a mountain of spices. It is a holy mountain that is, we are ascending to be in union with the beloved, either the physical beloved of the lover or the union of the beloved of Christ to his bride, Christ to woman, Christ to the church, and so forth. The spices are physically the sense and texture of the wife's body, but spiritually the spices are the tangible evidence of the Holy Spirit's fruits developed in our lives, fruits which with the Son relishes and which also feeds the soul of the other. So the spices are the fruits of the Spirit. Couldn't have said it better myself. So, let's see. We still live? Yes, we are. Okay. Going on to chapter 3. The spouse seeketh Christ, the glory of his humanity. In my bed by night, I sought him who my soul hath. I sought him and found him not. I will rise and I will go about the city, in the streets and the broadways. I will seek him who with my soul loved. I sought him and I found him not. The watchmen who keep the city found me. Have you seen him whom my soul loveth? When I had a little passed by them, I found him whom my soul loveth. I held him, and I will not let him go till I bring him into my mother's house and into the chamber of her that bore me. I adjourn you, O daughters of Israel, by the roe in the hearts of the fields, that you stir not up nor awake my beloved till she passed. In my bed the Gentiles are in the dark, and seeketh in heathen delusion that which could not find the true God until Christ revealed his doctrine to them by his watchmen. That is, by the apostles and teachers by whom were converted to the true faith. Holding that faith firmly, the spouse, the church cursed, declares that she will not let him go till she brings him into her mother's house, etc. That is, till last the Jews also shall find him. So the church, the beloved of Christ, will not let go of the mission to carry the beloved, which is the message of our Lord, to our home, our ancestral motherly home that bore us, which is the earth, the site of creation. So all of the earth will be brought to our groom, which is Christ. So it's funny because the perspective of Solomon is for one of the few occasions in the Bible that is feminine coded. It is from a feminine perspective towards Christ, which is very interesting for a number of reasons, because there is these issues of fertility and of life and death and so forth. But notice what is very important. It's from the very first cantici of Solomon, where there is the initiation of grace. Grace of the Lord is which brings us into the full love and the full knowledge of our Lord, but you cannot go and totally seek it. I know that in Orthodoxy, I forget what it's called. I think it's similar to the pre-last concept, where I think like Father Seraphim Rose talked about this as well, where you can't like necessarily do things to seek the love of God. Like by trying to like obsessively seek it, you're just basically wandering in the dark, and that can lead you down a very bad path. It can lead you down the path of heresy and like, Gnostic delusion and so forth. So, it's very important that you have to let Christ show you that love, that grace. And here we have the repeating, the Gentiles in the dark and seeketh in the heathen delusion that which could not find the true God until Christ revealed his doctrine to them by his watchmen. So only when the beloved in her darkness, in the empty bed, spurs her lover to go to the city of man, to find the Lord. But the watchman of Christ says, you gotta stop. We're gonna guide you towards your beloved, but you gotta wait for a little bit, or else you're gonna go down a bad path, or else, the muggers and the scum of the city are going to, they're going to lead you astray. So, who is she that goeth up on the desert as a pillar of smoke, of aromatical spices, of myrrh and frankincense? Again, like the three the Star of Bethlehem, like the shepherd and so forth. Myrrh and frankincense, again, they were given to Christ as gifts. Here we have it here. Of all the powders of the perfumer, behold thy 70 valiant one of the most valiant of Israel, surrounding the bed of Solomon. All hold swords and most expert in war. Every man's sword up to his thigh, because of fear of the night. King Solomon hath made him a litter of the wood of Lebanus. The pillars, therefore, he made of silver, the seat of gold. So again, the seat of gold, the seat of consciousness, the seat of our very recognition of our soul, which is the seat of the world. The going up of purple, the holy color. The midst he covered with charity for the daughters of Jerusalem. Go forth, ye daughters of Sion. See King Solomon in the daindom, wherewith his mother crowned him in the day of his espousals, in the day of the joy of his heart. So again, you also have this relation of the war for the nations of Zion. They are going to be brought from the darkness into the gold, the temple of gold and silver, the growing up of purple. Okay, so chapter 4. Christ sets forth the grace of his spouse and declares his love for her. How beautiful art thou, my love! How beautiful art thou! Thy eyes are dove's eyes, besides what is hidden within. So the dove of Christ, the peace that is given to us by the Lord, now the dove is placed within the beloved. So this could be that the beloved is a bringer of peace in your personal life, but the beloved of the church has been a granter of peace by being equated with the dove's eyes. Symbolically, the hair is the flocks of goats which come up from Mount Gilead, thy teeth as flocks of sheep that are shorn, which come up from the washing, all the twines, and there is none barren among them. So you have to realize that in East and Western various religious poetry, you have the similar relation to the divine and the natural. You have this relation between the beautification of the natural world and the beautification of the soul, or rather the beautification of the person, or, it's complicated in Buddhism, but I know within certain mystical forms of Zen, you have certain texts that talk about how your teeth will become whiter when you meditate, your fingernails will become, more resilient and longer, your skin will become more, fragrant and supple and youthful looking and so forth. So the purification of the body, the purification of the natural world with the body, the scents that are given to us by nature that beautify the self, is also that which beautifies our relationship to the Lord. The teeth is flocks of sheep that are shown so they're white as a washed sheep. There is none barren among them. They are all fertile. That feel when no fertile, mommy GF. Thy lips are a scarlet lace. Thy speech sweet. Thy cheeks are of a piece of pomegranate, rosy, fertile cheeks. Beside that which lieth hid within, which Lilith hid within, thy neck as thy tower of David, which is built with the bulwarks. 1,000 bucklers hang upon it, all the armor of valiant men. Thy two breasts that like two young roes, and that are twins, which feed among the lilies. How beautiful art thou! Christ again praises the beauties of his church, which through the whole of this chapter are exemplified by the verity of metaphors, setting forth her purity, her simplicity, and her stability. So, a simple but beautiful, comely lass is like a valley, a lily in the valley, not exactly special, not hubristic, not something that is a, archetypally 10 out of 10, but a, let's call it a mid-range woman. is beautiful in her simplicity, her rose-colored cheeks, her fertility, her simple but elegant beauty is like the church. But notice how the sort of the masculine symbols of, virility, which is the Tower of David, 1,000 bucklers hang upon it, all of armor of valiant men, the armor of the warrior is hung upon the feminine-coded bride of Christ, the church. All of the warriors hang upon the woman, the life giver, the mother to all of the church, who is the bride of Christ. You have this unique buttressing of the warrior with the feminine. The lunar feminine that is a giver of life is a symbol, is being guarded around the neck, the straight sepulcher, the straight sort of what's that thing? Notre Dame, the tower. I forget. Oh, I can't believe it slips me. Let's call it the stupa of the straight lattice of the church is being protected by the masculine warrior, the shields. They hang around her neck. This is a powerful symbol. Only the warrior, the solar masculine, is buttressed and given all life by the lunar feminine, by the bride of Christ, the church. Oh, man. Till the day break and the shadows retire, I go to the two breasts. I forgot the two breasts. Thy two breasts mystically to understand the love of God and the love of our neighbor, which are united as twins, which feed among the lilies. That is, the love of God and our neighbor feeds on the divine mysteries and the holy sacraments left by the church to his spouse to feed and nourish her children. So, the two breasts, that is a metaphor for the two worlds. The corporeal, the erotic, the relation, the communal. So the relation that I have in this world between my beloved and the relation I have between my neighbors, my community, my race, and so forth. Then there is the other breast, which is the relation of all of those things to the twin breast of the love of God towards the church and towards creation. Oh boy. So the two become one. As above, so below. Is a very powerful metaphor. The twin breasts there. Till the day break and the shadows retire, I will go to the mountains of myrrh and to the hills of frankincense. O thou art, O fair, my love, that is not spot in thee. Come from Lebanon, my spouse. Libanus. Let's look up Libanus. Oh, Mount Lebanon. Okay. Yeah, Mount Lebanon. But as it says here, what are the mountains? The mountains have appeared in reference something other than the bride. Something massive, grand, impressive, wondrous, are a force to reckon with. They are holy. O beloved, we are the mountains of spiritual delights, massive, immovable. The love of Christ is immovable like the holy mountain. Majestic, abounding, able to feed the soul of our mate. Notice that the bride, after the timeless length of time, still refers to her husband as young stag. Dear wife is your passion, or your husband as fresh and fervent as it was at the marriage altar. In your heart is your love still young? Does our longing for a service still burn? So the love of Christ to her bride, the church, is eternally young, like the love of a marriage, a married couple is eternally young as they age. Let her breasts satisfy thee at all times, and thou ravished always with her love. Are we close to say this great of all love songs? Maybe this picture lingers as a sunset in our hearts, maybe like mountains of spices. All right. Come from Libanus, my spouse, come from Libanus, come. Thou shalt be crowned from the top of Amana, from the top of Sinir and Hermon, from the dens of the lions, from the mountains of the leopards. Thou hast wounded my heart, my sister, my spouse. Thou hast wounded my heart. wounded my heart with thy eyes, wounded, not wounded, wounded, is that wounded or, and with one hair of thy neck, how beautiful are thy breasts, my sister, my spouse, thy breasts are more beautiful than wine. So it repeats in this love song. The sweet smell of thine ointments above all aromatic spices. So I have wounded my heart with one hair. Thy lips, my spouse, are as dropping honeycomb, honey and milk, land of milk and honey. Zion, the land of the Lord, is the guaranteeing of the grace, the love of Christ to us. The church as well that is founded upon Zion, the land of milk and honey. So the land of milk and honey, this is where the Israelites got it wrong. It is a metaphor for the love of God, the grace of our Lord towards us, the peoples of the world. That is the real land of milk and honey. My kingdom is not of this earth. My sister, my spouse, is a garden enclosed, a walled garden, a garden enclosed, a fountain sealed up. Thy plants are a parade of pomegranates, the fruits of the orchid, cypress with spikenard and saffron, sweet cane and cinnamon, so all the spices of life. With all the trees of Libanus, myrrh and aloes with the chief perfume, so all that which is, restorative and aloe and, antioxidant. The fountain of gardens as well of living waters, which run with a strong stream from Libanus. The stream runs from Lebanon, the Holy Land. The stream runs and gives replenishment to the garden, the walled off garden. A garden enclosed, figuratively, the church is enclosed, containing only the faithful. The church is like a walled garden. Only those of the faith can enter the garden from which the stream finds its home. Of living waters. Only within the church is a living water which gives nourishment to the garden. Similar to only how within the marriage bed, the lover and the beloved are one. And they receive in each other that divine form of eroticism. Yeah, does it remind me of the nursing Madonna breast imagery in the medieval art? Exactly reminds you of that. Arise, O north wind, O come, O south wind, blow through my garden, and let the aromatical spices therefore flow. So the scent of the church shall go to the peoples of the south, go to the people of the north, and shall spread the fragrant scent of the love of God to all the peoples of the world, similar to how the scent of my lover, of a beautiful woman in the valley, like a lily, draws me towards her in her scent. Oh yes, receive my scent. Okay, let me just, we're halfway done. Ugh! Christ calls his spouse, she languishes with love and describes him by his graces. Now the feminine, the bride of the church, is going to describe the beloved Christ. Let my beloved come into his garden. The woman is a keeper of the vineyard, but the garden is owned by the man, even though the woman has a sacred duty to keep the walled garden. The church is like the woman. The church maintains the household, maintains that source of beauty, of love, of eroticism, of divine grace, but it is the man's garden. Even though the woman, the church, keeps the garden for the man, let my beloved come into his garden. Garden mystically the church of Christ, abounding with fruit that is the good works of the elect. The good works of the goody, comely woman is now going to give way for the ownership of that garden, which is Christ. Or in a marriage, the ownership of the house is a man's work. The man owns the house, but the work of the house, the The replenishing of it is of the woman. So we have that dual metaphor. And eat the fruit of his apple trees. I am come into my garden. O my sister, my spouse, I have gathered my myrrh with my aromatical spices. I have eaten the honeycomb with my honey. I have drunk my wine with my milk. Wine with milk, the source of life with mommy milkies. Oh God, I shouldn't even say. I gotta get rid of that meme language. But now the bride of Christ has eaten the honeycomb, has spread the scents upon her. O friends, and drink and be inebriated, my dearest beloved. I am intoxicated with the love of the other. In a way, I am also intoxicated with the love of the Lord. It is taking that pagan Dionysian celebration of excess, and it is migrating it towards the love of God. You are intoxicated by the love of the Lord. The voice of my beloved knocking, open to me, my sister, my love, my dove, my undefiled. For my head is full of dew, my locks of the drops of the nights. I have put off my garments. How shall I put it on? I have washed my feet. How shall I defile them? My beloved put in the hand through the keyhole. I wonder what that means. Get the pollution out of your mind. I don't mean to sound crass and dirty, but you know. My bowels were moved at his touch. Oh God, oh God. Well, some people, my bowels are moved at his touch. I don't know what that means. I aroused up to open to my beloved. Open to my beloved. My hands dropped with my myrrh. My fingers were full of the choicest myrrh. So the thing in that act of creation, in that sexual union, she is holding myrrh, the symbol of life and death. Symbolic. My beloved puts her hands to the keyhole. So the garden, mystically the church of Christ. The spouse of Christ, his church, at times, if it were penned up, the spouse of Christ's church at times, if it were penned up by persecutors, in fears, expecting the divine assistance, here signified by his hand in verse 6, but he turned aside and he was gone. That is Christ permitting a further trial of suffering. And again, verse 7, the keepers, signifying the violent and cruel persecutions of the church, taking her veil, despoiling the church, RPing the church, if you know what I mean, of its places of worship and ornaments of the divine servants. My beloved put his hand through the keyhole. So even in times of persecution, even when the church has to guard herself from being violated by evildoers, by mashers, by defilers, through the keyhole, the love of Christ is still there, saying, I will still come to you in your rescue. So again, this powerful metaphor, I know some feminist writers would say how the act of violation is linked to the feminine within the Bible, but the problem is they skip over the part where it says that Christ will save the woman from violation, similar to how the husband saves her wife from being defiled. There is that dual act there, that intertwining metaphor. I opened the bolt of my door to my beloved, but he has turned aside, and I was gone. My soul melted when he spoke. I sought him, and from him not. I called, and he did not answer me. The keepers, so the messengers of Christ, that go about the city found me. They struck me and wounded me. The keepers of the walls took away my veil from me. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, that you tell him that I languish with love. What manner of one is thy beloved of the beloved? O thou most beautiful among women, what manner of one is thou beloved of beloved? Thou hast so adjourned us. My beloved is white and ruddy, chosen out of thousands. My beloved in the following verses, the church mystically describes Christ to those who keep him not, that is, as infidels in order to convert them to the true faith. So, Here the church, like the woman, goes among the infidels, goes among the unbelievers, goes among the defilers, where even the messengers, the keepers of the city, betray the church. Even the faithful will falter. So the keepers of the walls took away my veil. So the walled garden of the church is now, the church is beyond the wall, in the valley of the infidels, in the city of man, the city of the sinners. The church shall find all manners of wickedness, because beyond the wall of the garden of the church, the beautiful walled off garden, is entering the walls, beyond the walls of that garden, in through the walls of the city of man. And through the city of man, you have empire, you have political corruption, you have defilers of the church, you have heresy, you have all manners of debauchery, but only within the repellent garden of the church can the beloved be safe. The beloved that tends to the garden. Similarly, when you bring your bride, when you bring your lover out to the world will defile her. So what does that mean? A man who brings his wife to the city of man? Like Jack Murphy and other grifters bringing their wives into profound, disgusting cuckoldry? No, a man does not do this. A man does not defile her woman by bringing her to the city of man. Only a man which keeps the purity and love of his wife within their shining garden together is a true man. Similarly, Christ will always keep his bride, the church, in a state of perfection and beauty and love in the walled garden, in the fertility of the garden. Whoa, boy, that's a lot. So we're almost done now. His head is as the finest gold. He locks his branch of palm trees, black as a raven. His eyes as doves upon brooks of waters, which are washed with milk and sit beside the plentiful streams. So again, milk and the plentiful streams, the creation, the metaphor of water of life. His cheeks are a bed of aromatical spices set by the perfumes. His lips are lilies dropping choice myrrh. His hands... So his lips are as lilies dropping choice myrrh. His hands are turned as of gold full of hyacinths. His belly is of ivory set with sapphires, the rippling physique. His legs are pillars of marble that are set upon bases of gold. His form is of Lebanon, excellent as the cedars. His throat most sweet, that is all lovely. She is my beloved, and he is my friend, O ye daughters of Israel. Whiter is my beloved gone, O thou most beautiful among women. Whither is thy beloved turned aside, and we seek with him thee. So now we have the masculine. We have Christ dropping choice lilies of myrrh. Christ picks the lily from the valley, the church, as a man shall pick a woman, and honor her with his love. The spouse of Christ is but one, she is fair and terrible. My beloved is gone down into his garden, into the bed of aromatic spices for his garden to gather lilies. So Christ gathers lilies, the church. I to my beloved, and my beloved to me, who feedeth among the lilies. So notice how he who feedeth among the lilies, the love of a man and a woman feeds off each other. They complete each other. Similar to Christ and his church, they will feed and they will be nourished among each other. Thou art beautiful, O my love, sweet and come as Jerusalem, terrible as the army set in array. Turn away thy eye from me, for thou hast made me flee away. Thou hair is a flock of goats that appear from Gilead. The teeth is a flock of sheep, will come up from the washings. All the twins there is not barren among them. My beloved is gone down into his garden. Christ, pleased with the good works of his holy and devout servants, laboring at his garden, is always present with them, and the words is going down are to be understood that after trying his church by permitting persecution, he comes to her assistance, and she rejoices as his coming. So the good works of a woman is being repaid for in kind by the assistance that the husband gives to his wife, so Christ gives assistance to the church who faces persecution. A woman who faces persecution is saved by her man. Thy cheeks are of the bark of a pomegranate, beside which is hidden within thee. Thou art 80 queens, 80 concubines, and young maiden without name. One is my dove, my perfect one is but one. She is the only one of her mother, the chosen of her that bore her. The daughters saw her, declared her most blessing. The queen and the concubines, they praise her. So only the one. Who is she that cometh forth as the morning rising, fair, and the moon bright as the sun, terrible as an army set in array? I went down into the garden of nuts to see the fruits of the valleys, and to look if the vineyard hath flourished, and the pomegranates budded. One is my dove, that is the church is one. She is one and perfect and blessed. Who is she? He is the beautiful metaphor describing the church from the beginning. As the morning rising, signifying the church before the written law, fair as the moon, suing her under the light of the gospel, and terrible as an army, power of Christ's church against his enemies. So the woman is as terrible as an army. The woman of the church, similar to a good wife, is terrifying to the enemies of the husband, the enemies of the Lord. The church is both rising and the sun and descending in the moon. The church is perennial. The sun and the moon shall greet the church as the sun and the moon greets a bride. So the church has recognition among both the sun and the moon. In all of the phases, in all of the good times and bad times, the church is met with the earth. I know not, my soul troubled me, for the chariots of Amminadab. Return, O Solomonites, return, that we may behold thee. Number 7. Oh boy. A further description of the grace of the church. What shalt thou see in the Solomonites but the companions of camps? How beautiful are thy steps in shoes, O prince's daughters. O prince's daughter, the joints of thy thighs are like jewels. The joints of the I wonder what that means. That are made by the hand of a skillful workman. Thy navel is like a round bowl, never wanting cups. Thy belly is a heap of wheat, set above with lilies. As I am telling you, you only need the hourglass thick GF. None of this, anorexic crap. None of this, waif, ethereal girl crap. No, that is an abomination. Only thick baddies. That is only biblical. The belly is like a heap of wheat set upon with lilies. Thy breasts are like 2 young roes that are twins. Thy neck is a tower of ivory. Thy eyes like fish pools in Heshbon, that are the gates of the daughter of the multitude. The eyes of the beloved, those have the seat of eternity within. The daughter of the multitude. The daughter of all life. The church is like the daughter, is like the woman who is a giver of life. Thy nose is as the tower of Libanus. Thy looketh toward Damascus. Thy head is like a carmet, and the hairs of thy head as the purple of the king bound in the channels. How beautiful are thy steps. By this metaphors are signifying the power and mission of the church in propagating the true faith. As a woman propagates children, so the church shall give nourishment and propagate the true faith. Thy head is like a Carmel. Christ, the invisible head of the church, is here signified. The Carmel, the crown of the church. The crown. Notice how Mary is sometimes wearing a crown in symbolism because she is the mother of the church. She is the queen of heaven, but the crown is of Christ. How beautiful art thou, how comely, my dearest in delights. Thy stature is thy palm tree, thy breast a cluster of grapes. I said, I will go up unto the palm trees, and will take hold of the fruits therefore. In thy breast shall be the clusters of the vine, and the odor of thy mouth like apples, thy throat like the best of wine, worthy of my beloved to drink, his lips, his teeth to ruminate. I to my beloved, as his turning is towards me. The grace of the Lord turns towards the beloved, the church, so me as a man turns towards the beloved of the woman. So the seductive game is like the scent that is produced by nature. The Dionysian longing that we feel is represented in the lilies of the valley. Me as a man in my supreme love picks my lily of the valley. Come, my beloved, let thy go forth into the fields. Let us abide in the villages. Let us get up early to the vineyards. Let us see if the vineyards flourish, if the flowers be ready to bring forth fruits, if the pomegranates flourish. There will I give thy my breasts. The mandrakes give a smell. In our gates are all fruits. The new and the old, my beloved, I have kept for thee. So, the fertile woman is like the church, in that in the garden that both the man and the woman have beheld, both Christ and the church have beheld, the garden of the eternal pleasures of Christ, the garden that symbolizes the fruits that shall bear. Like a woman is like a fine lily or a fine flower that gives beautiful fruits, both in her children, in her acts, in her love of the Lord, in her love of her husband. So too shall Christ and the husband be the bearer and protector of those fruits that the woman has borne. So finally, chapter 8. Love of the church to Christ, his love to her. So now we go back to the masculine. Up until this point in the middle section, it was the feminine narrative. Now we are going back to the masculine narrative of the husband to the bride, of Christ to her bride, Christ to his bride, the church. Who shall give thee to my brother, sucking the breasts of my mother, whom I may find thee without, and kiss thee? And now no man may despise me. I will take hold of thee, and bring thee into my mother's house. The mother Mary as the queen of heaven. The man brings the goody woman to his mother's house. She has given the man life as Mary has given Christ life. So too shall the church be brought to my mother's house. The church will be brought to Mary as I bring my beloved to my mother. I will take hold of thee and bring into my mother's house. There thou shalt teach me, and I will give thee a cup of spiced wine and new wine of my pomegranates. So my mother, towards my bride, I give spiced wine. I give that holding of life. The son shall go with the bride. His left hand under my head. His right hand shall embrace me. I adjure you, O daughter of Jerusalem, that you stir not up, nor awaken my love till she pleases. Who is this that cometh up from the desert, flowing with delights? So in the desert, the woman creates a garden, a walled garden, from the desert, from the valley, from that which is barren. All life is given fruit. All fertility is in place. The church shall create a garden in the desert. Similar to how a good woman among the sea of thoughts and, bad manipulators and scum, heathens, the good woman rises like a lily in the valley. Flowering with delights, leaning upon her beloved, under the apple tree I raised unto thee. There my mother was corrupted, there she was deflowered that bore me. So under the apple tree my mother was defiled, the church, the queen of the church was defiled, but now we have new life within the church. His left hand, words of the Church of Christ. His left hand signifying the Old Testament. His right hand, the New Testament. The left hand path, the right hand path. Make of that what you will. Who is this? The angels will, with admiration, behold the Gentiles converted to the faith, coming up from the desert, that is, coming from heathenism and false worship, flowering with delights, that is, abounding with good works which are pleasing to God, leaning on her beloved, on the promise of Christ to his church, that the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And supported by his grace conferred by the sacraments, under the apple tree I raised thee up, that is, that Christ redeemed the Gentiles at the foot of the cross, where the synagogue of the Jews, the mother of church, was corrupted by their denying him and crucifying him. So even though they corrupted the mother of the church, they defiled her under the fruit tree, under the apple tree, so Christ has been given onto the Zion, onto the Israelites, the ability to receive grace once more. Meaning that if you are a heathen, if you have been defiled, the soul within you is like the mother of the church who has been violated, Christ will come and redeem you. If you are a heathen, if you are a heretic, if you have a false faith, Christ will take that defilement away from you. But notice the powerful metaphor. You are defiled under the tree of life, under the tree of knowledge, under the fruit apple. You know, that metaphor of like, what was it? Newton or was it Newton with the apple? Or Ben Franklin? I forget. So, like the apple is a powerful symbol, so too you are defiled under the tree, meaning you are defiled under the Lord. The Lord shall permit your suffering and your defilement so that you will later be saved by the grace of the Lord. Put me a seal upon thy heart, as a seal upon thy arm, for the love is strong as death, jealousy as hard as hell, jealousy for love. Love shall be jealous and kind. You shall have exclusivity and monogamy. You shall be jealous of your love. The lamps, therefore, are fire and flames. Many waters cannot quench charity, neither can the floods drown it. No flood can drown the love of Christ to his church, the way that no love of a man towards his woman can be quenched as a fire, as a flame of passion and eroticism and love. If a man should give all the substance of his house for love, he shall despise it as nothing. Our sister is little and hath no breasts. What shall we do to our sister in the day when she is to be spoken of or spoken to, when she becomes a woman? If she will be a wall, let us build upon its bulwarks of silver. If she is to be a door, let us join it together with boards of cedar. I am a wall, my breasts are a tower, since I become in presence as one finding peace. You shall protect the little sisters of faith till they are ready to create their own garden. Our sister is little, mystically signifying the Israelites who are to be spoken to, that is converted towards the end of the world. Thou shalt become a wall, that is part of the building, the church of Christ. So the Israelites should, and this is what they're never going to tell you in, churchianity, that the Israelites should be converted unto the love of God, that they are like adolescent women that shall be grown into a replete, full-breasted woman who will create her own garden by accepting the church, by accepting Christ, her older sister. The church is Israel's older sister. And saying, listen, you must grow up, you must accept the love of your husband when you are ready, which is the love of Christ. The peaceable had a vineyard in that which hath people. He let out the same to keepers, Every man bringeth for the fruits, therefore, 1,000 pieces of silver. My vineyard is before me. 1,000 are for thee, the peaceable, and 200 for them that keep the fruit, therefore. The vineyard of the church that is maintained by the woman of the church is before thee. It shall be protected in peace. It shall be made peaceful by the silver, by the protectorate of the door and the walls. Thou that dwelleth in the gardens, my friend, hearken, make me hear thy voice. Flee away, O my beloved, and be like thy roe and the young hart upon the mountain of aromatic spice. The beloved of the church, go to the mountains of spice, go to the roe, be that which is scented and beautiful. The church shall be beautiful as the wife shall be beautiful, in order to let the world know of the beauty of our Lord, the way that a beautiful wife lets everyone know of the good works of her husband, and so forth. Now, this has been very powerful. Oh boy. So I have a few interpretations of the lily of the valley. The rose of Sharon likely is not a rose, as we know, a flower. It may have been a crocus, tulip, hibiscus. Jesus may have spoken of this when he referred to the lilies of the field, meaning some humbler but delicate flower. The rose and the lily to be thought of the collective sense. The valleys would have more than one lily. For example, many flowers, a class of flowers. Referred to the virgin class, these common little flowers realize that God has called them to the individuals into his family. Perhaps it is time that they see why he has picked them, because they are poor in spirit, meek, though rich in faith. A humble, comely mid-woman, a plain Jane who is beautiful, will be the most loyal, even though she is common, like all the lilies in the valley, she is still prized as the beloved, like the church. When they realize that they have this faith, they have a measure of confidence and hope. He really has called them the Holy One who inhabiteth eternity, dwells with the lovely and contrite in heart. The contrite in heart. Song of Solomon is the lily among the thorns, so is my love among the daughters, as mentioned earlier. The virgin class has said, I am the lily of the valleys. Christ, yes, you are the lilies, but you are amidst thorns. She is in moral contrast with her surroundings. She is in moral contrast with her surroundings. He adds no more. So a plain, godly, mid-tier woman that looks beautiful, but not too beautiful, is not too vain, is humble. She is the perfect bride to you. That is the best advice, the best dating advice I could ever give you. She is also like the church, who is the perfect bride of Christ. The Lord would have her follow in all her footsteps as she beholds him in his beauty, his fragrance, his humility. She hears to him, I am, so you are thee in the world. He that saith he abides in me, out herself also to walk even as I walked. To be like unto him, she must go out into the fertile valleys. There must be set abide. She must draw strength and nourishment from the hidden springs and the rich soil of his word. His life must flow into her until she blossoms out into his likeness. Father Anthony Frey. So, the man, Christ, is in the world. The woman tends to the garden in the walled garden, the bringer of life. But notice how the feminine shall too seek the masculine out in the world. The feminine must risk being ravaged and polluted and defiled in the city of man to seek her beloved. So this isn't some kind of misogyny, like she should only be barefoot and pregnant, blah, blah, blah. This is a powerful interlinking of the duties that women have towards the man and man towards the woman. This isn't some caricature of some ultra Protestant puritanical version of Christianity. This is very much the active role of the woman shall go out to the city and seeketh the Lord in darkness. And yes, the woman shall be led astray, but in the darkness, the light of Christ, the light of the husband, shall find her. The beautiful lily has no thorns growing upon her. In her words, there is nothing which is sharp to wound her lord or those around her. The perfect man to the perfect married couple woman, no thorn shall harm him. In the perfect, beautiful woman, so too the church shall not harm Christ. There's no thorns. There are no unkind actions growing upon this plant that is being prepared for the garden of heaven. There are no unworthy, uplifted attributes found upon them when God will choose. So when a man chooses the woman, there is no thorns. Only in their union, there is no harshness, there is no defilement, there is only beauty, there is only the beloved. There is only the love between each other. That is the meaning of love, is to choose in full possession and to choose without thorns. Pure in heart, who shall one day see God, like wildflowers of the field, neither toil nor spin with distressful anxiety, but who, in accepting whatever divine providence may permit to come onto them, are arrayed even now in garments whose glory and beauty may transcend that of Solomon's. The espoused virgin sees not to sense the fact that, like unto the Jewish Jehovah of old, who was fled by way of the willing sacrifice of his people unto the altar, Leviticus, Psalm, Hebrews, so too her beloved was feeding upon the loving consecrations and dedications of purity in heart, the sweet fragrance of the lilies in her beloved, and that which the sweet savor of the burnt offerings and peace offerings in Jehovah of old. He gathered the lilies in chapter. So the Lord shall abide in the sweetest of fruit that is bared to him by the beloved, by the woman, by the church, so too you shall feast upon the beautiful fruits that the woman shall bear. Woo! Man, that is amazing. Are we still live? Yes, we are. Whoa! So this has been a mouthful. So I think you can very easily see that the love of the divine other is similar to the love of a man and a woman that shall be free of defilement. And there is a symbiotic relationship between the two. So here we have Carl Jung's interpretation. This is an essay. Krishnatsi limits herself, however, mostly to identifying and analyzing the animus and the anima in songs. One often gets the impression that one is not reading about real lovers, but about solipsistic parts of the self. Also seems to oppose any literal understanding of the song, denying historical influence and claiming that almost everything mentioned in the song is reference to something else. For example, the lilies stand for the erotic. The obviously reminds of the allegorical interpretation. The exaggeration of psychological biblical criticism could indeed lead to a psychological allegorical interpretation. Boucher. In fact, psychological interpretations are also sometimes regarded as an allegorical method of interpretation. So again, this is you have to avoid the psychologizing of it by, especially a materialist psychology of it. So Eric Neumann and the feminine archetype manifest in the Great Mother, above all expressed with which female beloved is identified. This work culminates in a whole psychological commentary in the song, 1981. Rollins has most influenced the animal's nature in general, are typical elements in the text which make it available for analytical psychology. There's also a feature which occurs frequently in the highly sensual songs, that the search for archetypes implies a common humanity with which the recipient can resonate, sounds appealing, but that these archetypes transcend history could be understood as to be in opposition to historical criticism, and also by going against the grain of postmodernism, which critiques and denies any claim to universality in modernistic myths. So, yeah, I know the postmodernists, they don't exactly like the Jungians or the Lacanians. Freudian psychology seems to have been neglected in respect to the song, despite its strong emphasis on the crisis of love with all of its sexual undertones. Lang distinguishes the psychology of Freud, with his Jewish background is more suitable for the Bible, which has been written from a more patriarchal frame of mind, from Jungian psychology, which has applied more to a more matriarchal fairy tale. Although Jung often referred to the Bible when he regarded as expressions of the feminine soul, in opposition to Freud with his successors, however, Jung elevated the unconscious religious from the Bible positively. Yeah, of course, Freud. Freud, he hated the Bible for, obvious reasons. Yet psychological criticism of the song remains in its infancy. Somewhat as prominent is the psychological interpretation of the Bible, as Duerman devotes only a paragraph to the song. Practical ways to interpret it. The only presentation which is available for human psychology, accepting, however, the text is not an explicitly religious text, would free the psychological hermeneutic from any tension between religion and psychology. There would not deny certain possible religious traces in the text, such as the dead in the night, referring perhaps to demons, but would include them as significant for the interpretation of a character's personal view. So this is basically psychologizing the songs. This is the Jungian interpretation. Probably exaggerates what he claims. So David claims the feminine lover in the song is open and so loving because she never existed. She is nothing but the figment of the male author's wish-fulfilling imagination. He dreams of a woman dreaming of him. Although Kleins wants to suggest the openness of fantasy expressed in the song, he might, in effect, be closing the text by denying the woman her reality, just as allegorical interpretations he critiques done when they reinterpreted her, either the church or God or anyone who is not a woman. So again, I don't buy that crap interpretation. Like, this is why I disagree with a lot of feminist interpretations of Song of Songs, because you're denying the womanly nature of it. You're denying the womanhood of it. You're denying the very feminine-coded nature that is very unique to this part of the Bible. You're denying the reality of the woman to service some kind of like weird political end where it's like, well, that's why the Bible is so misogynistic, because it's all the male gaze. The Song of Songs is the male gaze. It's like, no, it's not. It's clearly that the feminine takes an active part because the feminine is equated to the church in Song of Songs. But of course, the psychologists and the feminists, they deny this. They want to psychologize it. They want to say that this is a male gaze, that this is a male wish fulfillment fantasy, the way that the manic pixie dream girl is. The woman in the Song of Songs, is there a manic pixie dream girl here? I don't think so. Leinfeld likewise regards the actors in the songs as voice rather than characters, with the letter normally absent lyrical poetry. The dialogue in the song would then be revealed relationally in feelings rather than characters. There is also very little internal plot or character development, so as the Perpetua, reversal of fortune, and Engorisis, a dramatic moment of recognition of truth, which is so typical of narrative characteristics, except perhaps in the two seemingly narrative situations. In 314, 527, even if the term character is not strictly speaking applicable here, there seems, however, to be enough information to outline a personality from the dotted fragment in the text. No, there is tons of reversal of fortune. There is the woman being led astray in the field of man, being violated under the tree, but then Christ comes, like the husband comes, to save the wife, to save the woman. Yeah, there's tons of that. Dramatic moments of recognition, maybe not so much because the whole thing is a, moment of recognition, right? Or of truth and of beauty. Although the female lover, being the character which applies most in the poem, remains anonymous despite the enclitic reference to her, the Shulamite, a psychodramatic perspective could deal with a certain measure of probability with reconstructing her personality and experience. How is the possibility that a lover never addresses his beloved by her name, which one would expect to be associated with her love and her beauty, therefore be sweet? No, because the church is universal. That is why. The love, as well as the particular love that a man has for a woman, is a metaphor for the universal love both of God to his children, Christ to his children, both of God, and of also the universal love between man and woman. So it is purposefully, the name of the woman here is purposefully effaced for metaphorical reasons. Feeling strange, she is called, but she never calls anyone explicitly, except her lover, with whom she wishes to be one. From her repeated mentioning daughter and my mother, her relationship with women is clearly asymmetrical to that with males. Is this, they try to psychologize it to say that she's a pick-me? Well, because the feminine is devoted to the masculine. Of course she doesn't reference other women. I mean, this is the Bible after all. Come on. A depth psychological approach could assist in answering such questions as to whether the female lover has particular Oedipal struggles. Ooh! Especially as she never refrains to sisters either. What role models functioning as constraining superego in the song? And what psychological defenses are mustered against anxieties? No, because through the masculine, the woman's anxieties are lowered in the Bible. I know it's a meme, hello, but when you say that maybe she just needs a good man, that's the truth. Because the anxieties of the church being defiled are lessened by the grace of Christ, the eternal masculine. What role models functioning as constraining superego in the song? The brothers are passively mentioned, but also as actively participating in voices with added much to interpretations about the social, gender, and family relations referred to the feminine voice. Depths. So the feminine calls out to her man like the church calls out to the voice of Christ. The voice of Christ gives wisdom to the church. So the voice of the man in erotic union gives wisdom to the woman. Not in a way that her girlfriends can't, in a way that her mother can't, only the masculine. From such psychological characteristic studies, a more specific focus on can follow the way they view their bodies, those of others. The song excels in the reference to the body. Possible epithelium contains from Asaph bodily descriptions. One of the male in 5:10:16, 3 of the female lover. Regarding the ego as the body ego is the first place. And from this perspective, such an investigation will be important, except to a more holistic study of the characters, blah, blah, blah. Of course, the cultural background of the text must be taken into account in order to interpret this correctly. Historical criticism is pertinent. As for the male lover, his identity is ever more obscure. To the extent that some have recognized 2 different male lovers, his association with Solomon is the indirect one, the remaining one for interpretation. More latent information remains with less prominent characters. The gap in the text continues. One of the factors which have left an open text, inviting the projections of blah, blah, blah. Creative co-writing of the text as Roland Barthes idealized it, yet a more scientific psychological approach, blah, blah, blah. Psychological criticism is a knowledge approach to literature as respective whether the context of literature is religious or not. The song is yet to be interpreted as literal in literature. In modernity and post-modernity, the use of the psychological approaches should be evident. Psychological approaches can assist to experience the song as they appeal to the recipient's internal processing of the lyrical poetry, yet the plethora of psychological approaches in the Bible, sometimes contradicting herself, seemingly pseudoscientific, results have rendered this perspective suspect of the same blah, 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 blah. Fedora tip. So this is, actually, let me look that up. So this paper that I'm reading here, I'm critiquing, Psychological Approaches to Song of Songs by Peter van der Zwaan, postdoctoral research of Pretoria. You can find it for free online. So let's see. Song of Songs. Yeah, I mean, oh God, I wish I had JSTOR access still. I do. I used to have JSTOR access, but I don't anymore. What's this one? I think I have that. A Lover's Discourse fragments. Over the past year, the text, the other's body. The other's body was divided. One side, body, proper skin, eye, tender, warm. On the other side, the voice. To scrutinize menu to search, I'm searching the other's body if I want to see what's inside of it. The mechanical cause of my desire were in an adverse body. I like those children who take a clock apart in order to find out what time it is. This operation is conducted in a cold and astonished fashion. I am calm, attentive, and I were confronted by a strange insect of whom I am suddenly no longer afraid. Certain parts of the body was particularly appropriate in observation, eyelashes, nails, rows of hair. as I provide by the fact that the body I'm scrutinizing happens to emerge from this inertia. If I begin doing so, my desire changes. For instance, I see the other thinking. My desire ceases to be perverse. It again becomes imaginary. I return to an image, to a whole. Once again, I love. Suddenly coming back from the coast room. The image from which I excluded, they're cruel, yet sometimes I'm caught up in the image. It's reversal, leaving the outdoor cafe when I must leave behind with other friends. I see myself walking, blah, 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 blah. So basically, Roland Barthes is saying that when you deconstruct it, it's like our desire is placed within the body of the other. So similar to how Song of Songs describes the bodies of the lover, so too that they find their erotic union within, which is kind of contradictory because you can only experience your desire, but yet that desire is placed within the other, especially the body. And Roland Barthes is trying to deconstruct it that way. Let's go to the JSTOR link. They usually have a preview. I don't know. The singing, acting of Roland Barthes and Callas. Man, I wish I had JSTOR access still. Anyways, I think I'm going to wind this down. I can't stand when Straussian and other constant refer to Old Testament as the Hebrew Bible. Acts like they don't know that the New Testament made a definition reinterpretation of it. Exactly. We stand women. What do you need from JSTOR? Let me know. Oh, that's good. I think if I contact my old university, I think I do have an alumni thing, which I could probably see. But I think this is good. And by the way, for those who want to know, the title of Marc Chagall, Song of Songs. This is the title image. This is the painting by Marc Chagall interpreting the Song of Songs. And I love it. Like the color palette, everything. Let's go to a good one. Here we go. That's a good one. So the Song of Songs, we have the lover, we have Christ, we have the dove. We have a symbolic tapestry through the work of modern art, through expressionism. We have this tapestry that represents the divine love. We have the lilies of the valley. We have the city in the valley. We have the lovers in their bed. We have everything. We have the flowers. It is a symbolic tapestry. But notice how it's a cluster. It is a panacea of imagery. It is a narrativization of the Song of Songs within one painting. This is brilliant. I love this. Let me see if there's any text on it. Wiki art. Oh, this is another version of it. So you have the horse. Let's see here. 1975. He lived for that long? Holy crap. Oh, this is another version of it. So, in Marc Chagall's The Cantique de Cantiques, the Song of Songs, 1975, a bride and groom embrace each other. Their elongated bodies seamlessly merge into one being as they gaze into each other's eyes. This composition radiates with warmth and affection, allowing us, and notice how we have the similar rosy red hue of the paintings of the ones that he was doing. Number from the editor of edition of 200 pencil in lower margin. Hand signed by Chagall. Oh, it's a color lithograph. Oh, so he did a series of lithographs of it. I see. That's interesting. Color lithography. That's weird. I wonder how you can do color lithography. I have to look into that. Chagall depicts a topsy-turvy world that appears if reflected from a lake. Two top proportions of vertical composition. Upright, the bottom is upside down. However, the top and bottom are not mirrors of one another, but rather convey different images. On the top, Outlooks appears safely nestled in a circular dwelling So again, the dwelling, the alcove of doves, is the dwelling place, the garden of the beloved. Here are the two emissaries guarding, the two angels guarding the lovers of Christ. Created in 1975, this color lithograph on Arches paper is created after an original painting by Marc Chagall, hand-signed by Marc Chagall. As if seeing else the circular dwelling, waving out the couple, while at the bottom a shepherd follows a lone sheep beneath as illuminated crescent moon. The vibrant red hue utilized in the piece suggests sunlight. Chagall captured the couple departing from their honeymoon. The lone shepherd and the sheep, so now they're upside down. So you have this distortion of this aerial perspective, which is found within the poetic union of the lovers. The aerial perspective is specifically distorted in order to express how the lovers are in a state of divine ecstasy. Only the poetic images, the visual poetry of Marc Chagall's expressionist paintings can provoke this. Description of the painting by Song of Songs. Here we go. Who lived outside of the rules. Even the Louvre could not stand against his work. Contrary to established traditions, organized an exhibit of the art during his lifetime. Wrote poems in Yiddish. His paintings are recognizable because the style of the author is not repeated. Song of Songs was written in Chagall in 1958, inspired by the plot of the Jewish scripture. There are many interpretations of plot lines. Theirs presents the original version of the viewer. Everything's unusual here. Red, blue horse with colorful wings. Boutique flowers in the front legs. A bouquet of flowers, a snow-white veil of the bride waving across the sky, a blue tree and tangerine mountains. Chagall receives a classic art education, blah, blah, blah. The dissimilarity has become his calling card, but never joins a certain trend. The principles and styles of his painting are immediate, emotional, juicy colors are clear, scenes and harmonious and spiritual. They're very much airy, they don't have specific perspective. They're very much like tapestries. Marc Chagall knew the scriptures perfectly well, so he plots to prefer disclosure. Song of Songs means the most important of the songs, telling about the marriage of God and the Jewish people. The picture, God the bridegroom, with whom in the head there is a crown, a symbol of power. The bride, the people, a pure human soul, seeking to ally with the highest knowledge, and of course eroticism. The love between them is unselfish, above worldly vanity, above the defiling of the world in the city of man. The outlines of the figure occupy the lower field of the picture. Soar he and she, capable of giving, recognizing, receiving love. It is now by chance that they sit facing each other, bowing their heads humbly in token of consent of the union made in heaven. The picture belongs to the red period of creativity, positive, major, and creative. Oh boy, that's amazing. There we go. Okay, I think I'm going to end it now. This has been great. We covered a lot of ground. People seem to love when I do biblical interpretation. And I think if you are someone who is struggling in the romance department, I please go and give them the stream. I believe that we did a good job of covering the Song of Songs. It's one of my favorite Bible passages. So, thank you, one and all. Next week is going to be pretty busy. 3 streams on Break the Rules. So, looking forward to that. A lot of exciting guests. So, as always, please like, share, subscribe. Click the bell. Go to my PayPal, go to my Telegram, especially. I have a lot of spicy rants there. I'm going to come out with a new Substack this week as well. I've been lagging. I have a lot of things to write for different people. So, yes. Thank you, one and all. God bless. Goodbye. Too sweet. All right.